everyone! So in today's video I'm going to show you how I painted my Beauty and the Beast nesting dolls. So let's get started. So first of all, I got these nesting dolls from my local art store. I was just there looking for glitter and I thought, hey, let's see what else they have here. And I was looking at the section that had little wooden things you can paint. That's pretty common to find in craft stores. And I saw the nesting dolls and I just knew I had to get them because there's so much you can do. Like, even just doing this one set, I'm like, there's so many other things I could have done other than Beauty and the Beast. Another one I was highly considering was doing a set of Disney princesses. I don't know how I would limit it to 5, but I decided to go the Beauty and the Beast route because I love Beauty and the Beast and I'm so hyped after the live action movie. Oh, I need to go see it again ASAP. I don't know how I haven't yet. I've just been too busy, I guess. But yeah, I decided to do Beast, Belle, Cogsworth, Lumiere, then Mrs. Potts and Chip. And it was actually a viewer suggestion in my Twitch live stream to do Mrs. Potts and Chip together on one because I thought it was really weird how tall and skinny the piece was. They're kind of bowling pin shaped almost. And doing Mrs. Potts like that would look really funny. She'd look really tall and skinny. And so I loved the suggestion of combining them so that their proportions are a little bit better. It actually took me a really long time to paint that one, just as long as it took to do some of the bigger ones. It was insane and I was constantly going back over areas to fix mistakes, and not all of that is shown. I cut out a lot of that, but it was still pretty tricky. And yeah, I was toying with doing a different combination, like maybe making the smallest one the Enchanted Rose, maybe incorporating Gaston, but I just felt like I had to do Cogsworth, Lumiere, and Mrs. Potts. And I made Lumiere the second smallest. He could have been the medium-sized one, but I decided to make Cogsworth the middle one just because he's bulkier than Lumiere. Lumiere is taller, but Cogsworth has more mass, so I decided to make him the bigger one. It could have gone either way. I'm trying not to get too fussed over the size, but it does somewhat bother me. I'm like, okay, who's gonna be which one? This has to work out at least a little bit. Because, yeah, Cogsworth and Lumiere are roughly the same size, so it is a tough decision, but I decided to go this way. As fun as these were to paint, I don't see myself doing another set, at least not for a long time, because this was really, really time consuming. I spent an average of 3 hours per figure just waiting for paint to dry or fixing mistakes, because there were a lot of mistakes. And so it took quite a while. I mean, I was live streaming, so that definitely stretches the time out, but this was still a very time consuming video to make, but it was so worth it. If you're wondering what paints I'm using, they are acrylic paints, and it's just that big assortment of dollar store acrylics that I have because I didn't want to use my nice acrylics on this. I have some that I got for Christmas, but they're really tiny tubes and I don't have many of them, and so I didn't want to use them on something like this just because I feel like I want to save them for a painting on wood or canvas or something like that instead of this, because this is more like a fun little crafty project, not so much like an art painting or anything. So saving my paints for something like that. I don't know when I'll get around to using those because I'm loving my oil paints so much these days, but someday, I tell ya, someday. Now for Belle, she was a little tricky because I felt like she was gonna look the weirdest out of the bunch, other than maybe Lumiere. He looks weird because he's so skinny, so putting on this bulbous shape is a little odd, but I actually dropped Belle into some paint. I have to mention that now because there's a clip with sound coming up, and then I'll get back to how she was a struggle in a sec. But yeah, I was holding her and I dropped her into the paint on the palette. It was pretty tragic. And here it is. Why? I used the clip from my live stream for that because it had sound. My other camera wasn't recording sound, so I decided to show that. Plus, you got to see my face reaction too, but it was kind of for the best though because it made me repaint her face and I was feeling kind of iffy about it. I felt like her ears and eyes were too high and I wanted to move it down to make her face have more chibi proportions. And so, yeah, it was kind of for the best. It sucked, but I think it looks better. But yeah, she was a struggle because, for example, like with Cogsworth, I put his arms directly on his sides, and so that kind of worked. With Belle, I didn't want to just have these stick arms on the sides because her dress is draping over her, like over the top of her arm, and I just felt like she would look weird. I don't know. So I did her front side just kind of flat on the front, and then her dress and hair fill the space along the sides and the back. I thought that would look best for her, because it's really tricky trying to do a 2D image on a 3D surface, especially when the shapes don't match. Like with Cogsworth, I was surprised because he's so square, but he worked really well. I feel like he turned out the best because it's actually somewhat close to his proportions in terms of height versus width, even though it is so round. And so he turned out really well. I think also just the face turned out nicely. It really captured his likeness a lot. It is one thing I don't like about this set is that the styles don't really match. Like with Chip and Mrs. Potts, they're so tiny that I just did the black dot with white highlight for their eyes. And then when I moved on to Lumiere, I was trying to draw the eyes how they look on the actual character. But I spaced him out a bit and made his mouth a bit wider just because the nesting doll itself was wider. And I kind of regret that. I should have made his face narrower and just ignored the shape, but oh well. And then with Cogsworth, it was kind of more true to how his face actually looks. And then with Belle, I wanted to go back to the chibi looking route and give her the black eyes with the white highlight. And so I did that, and so because of this decision, they don't all match in terms of face style, but oh well. And with Beast, I kind of did the same thing. I was gonna do black dot, and then I was like, well, his blue eyes are such a distinguishing feature about him, and even people in the Twitch chat were saying, oh, make his eyes blue. So I kind of did the same thing as with Belle, but a blue dot with the white highlight. And he looks really, really funny at this stage because his head looks so like chocolate or something, and we kept saying he looks like a Diglett. It's pretty funny. And then once I started drawing his eyes, he looked like Baymax. So he went through quite the transformation. He's many characters in one, but I just think his little head is so cute. Like, look at that. So funny. But yeah, I think he turned out pretty well as well. I made his arms bent forward, so it kind of looks like he's grabbing his tummy, but yeah, and his arms aren't symmetrical, like one's coming forward more, but what can you do? It's really hard because it's round, and so you draw something on one side, and then you have to flip it over, and you can't see the other arm to make it symmetrical. Like if it was a flat image on paper, you can see the other arm and try to make it look the same, but on this, I can't see the other side when I'm painting one side, and so, yeah, it was a bit difficult, but this was really fun, and they're cute. I also varnished them with some varnish, like a satin finish varnish, just so they don't chip each other when they're being stacked together and stuff. But this was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in my next video. It looks like Beast ate them all at the end. He's like, yummy, that was good, because his hands are on his stomach. He ate them all. No!